This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, fresh off of saying something nice about the Arkansas Razorback men's basketball team that arguably led them to defeat. So you got to say bad things about them, John. They win when you tweet negatively about them.
Did I really say anything nice about them directly until after their noble but losing effort against Duke? I'm not sure. I may have. Like everybody else in the state, I kind of fell in love with these guys. What a bunch of noble, maximum effort guys who have some personality, a couple of them. And it was what a great march. It's a great march in Arkansas when we get that far. Because it engages everybody, and nothing galvanizes the people like that. So of the state like that. So that was good. Even my wife, who knows nothing of sports, sat down and got into a game and some of the personalities and some of the effort. So it was all good. And now it's over, and we got a boring blue blood Final Four that I probably won't even watch. But that's all right. That's all right.
All right. Well, let's talk politics. President Joe Biden has been in Europe this past week, shoring up NATO support, doing yeoman's work on trying to keep a coalition together against Russia aggression in Ukraine. He gets criticized, I think, for an off-the-cuff statement there. I'm not so sure that his statement's inaccurate, number one, and I didn't really have a problem with what he had to say. I'm not sure Vladimir Putin needs to stay in power. I think he's committed war crimes, quite personally. What's your take?
Yeah, there's truth, and then in world affairs, there's diplomacy, and there are messages that have to be carefully attended to. And I have a problem with it. You and I have a rare disagreement here. I think you need to, when you're dealing with the possibility, the very real possibility of chemical or nuclear warfare being invoked with some happenstance, some accidental effect that would force NATO into direct conflict with this nuclear power led by a madman, I think you ought to weigh your words carefully. And when speaking in such a major address as that especially, you don't go off the cuff. You know what you're going to say and you say it. So yeah, I thought, no. Of course it's true. We need, I mean, Putin should not remain in power. Somehow, some way, maybe he will no longer be. But at this point, when you still have an opportunity to maybe negotiate something, why introduce a factor into it that you don't have to introduce? Which reminds me, I'll just say this. In his current state, Biden faces criticism largely from people who believe that he is not as alert as he once was, and that he's halting with the effect of age. That aside, whether that's so or not, in his robust years, the rap on Joe Biden, and one reason he ran for president twice and didn't get it, is that he kind of a blowhard. He talks too much, and you have to be wary that he's going to go off script and say something that he thinks sounds good. He gets caught up in a moment, and I think this was sort of that Joe presenting himself. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not morally wrong. It's morally right, but it was just unnecessary and kind of an indelicacy in a situation that I think requires incredible delicacy. I welcome your countering view, but that's my concern about it. It was thrown in at the end. Oh, by the way, and it's called podium policy. And you've worked for politicians in your past. You don't want your boss to start engaging in introducing new policies from the podium because he's caught up in the moment. That's not good. It's not a way to do policy. Anyway, that's my view, and I'm glad to share it.
Look, I take a different tack there. I think this is a pretty black and white, no gray area here. I think we've been as delicate as we can for many years, quite frankly, and particularly in this latest instance, and I don't think it has really changed the equation any. So I think being blunt and saying what needs to be said was totally appropriate in my book, and I hope it sends a signal of American resolve to our partners in Europe and maybe even to the Kremlin that, hey, this is a little bit different than what it's been in the past. We've been trying to tap dance and negotiate. You're playing games with us. We're tired of playing games with you, sort of thing. So
that's a point of view.
I don't think he's gonna push. Anybody's gonna push a button over it, I guess is my point. So
let's certainly hope not. And I respect your point of view, and you expressed it very, very credibly. And thank you.
Work that into a column if you can there. Roby Brock.
I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to go that far.
Let's don't go that far. All right, let's talk about another high-profile political event of the last week. The wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, apparently it is revealed a number of texts that she sent to Mark Meadows, then Chief of Staff for President Trump, during this period of transition between our presidents here, advocating that they get involved and overturn this election. You got two camps here. One camp saying Justice Thomas can still be impartial, and another camp saying he's got to recuse himself from these matters. I know where I think you're going to fall on this politically, but just how does the other point of view even present itself that he could not be affected by what his wife has to say?
Well, to your latter question, to the question of how could he credibly, without appearance of conflict or bias, or at least complication, not recused, and hear a case involving this issue on which his wife has now had such an extreme and fully outed view. No, I can't see any explanation or justification. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, there are people saying Justice Roberts, on behalf of the court, needs to issue some policy or some edict or some sort of disciplinary constraint on another justice. That's not how it works. I mean, maybe it should, and I guess they could presume by a majority vote, I don't know, to make a rule going forward, but recusal is with the judge, and that's the way it is. These Supreme Court members have a lot of power. That's why we take it so seriously. And I've never, I don't know that the chief or the other members would want to get involved in another's matter of judgment like that, except in a strongly worded dissent or something. I don't know. But as a practical, but as a matter of legal propriety, there's no way Clarence Thomas should go anywhere near a case involving this issue. There's no way. But that I think is ultimately up to him and his judgment about whether he supposedly could be fair. I don't think he'd be fair to begin with. I don't think he's been fair in a lot of cases, period. I don't think a lot of the justices are fair on a lot of things. They come with preconceived notions because it's become almost like a legislative vote to get confirmation. That aside, no way he should go near an issue, but I'm afraid that's up to him.
Do you think we are headed for another purely party line vote on the new Supreme Court justice nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson?
I think so, but this is kind of weird. Let me just say where we are. 53 people voted for her for the appeals court, the Washington, D.C. Court of Appeals. 3 Republicans, right? Murkowski, Collins, and Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's now out, apparently. He's changed his mind. And now you've got only 50 Democrats, that's not enough, but Kamala Harris could break the tie. And you got last week Joe Manchin saying, I'm going to vote for, because he's voted for all Biden administration judgeship nominees. And people are saying, well, this seems to lock it up. This is big. Who have we not heard from yet? We have not heard from her. I just read last week that Joe Biden is getting very frustrated because she no longer promptly or at all returns his calls. So, you know, all the inside plugged in national reporters and commentators saying it's on track. She's going to get confirmed. Not the Senate Judiciary Committee will not confirm today. The Republicans will use a procedural hold, and they'll have to do it next week, and then we'll see. But there's this assumption she's going to be, and sometimes I worry about assumptions. I'd like to hear from Senator Sinema, who, by the way, like Manchin, has voted for every Biden judgeship nominee so far. But she's kind of odd. I'd like to hear it from her mouth, you know. And this idea that you're going to have 2 or 3 Republican votes, maybe. Well, I hope so. Murkowski and Collins would be good prospects. Mitt Romney was quoted today as saying some of his colleagues, our guy Cotton and Cruz and those others, got way off base, out of line in some of their questioning about that there was no there on this child pornography sentencing. So he's a possibility. So I don't know if it's going to be party line. I don't know if Biden gets bailed out by 2 or 3 Republicans, but I don't assume anything anymore. You know, I want to wait and see I want to hear hard and fast words from 4 or 5 senators, Sinema, Murkowski, Collins, and maybe Romney, before I will make any assumptions, because these are strange times, as you know. I don't take too much for granted.
So Senator Sinema is not returning Joe Biden's phone calls, but John Brummett returns Joe Biden's phone calls, correct?
You know, I don't believe he's called me in a while. And if he ever read my recent columns, like one yesterday, which he probably wouldn't want to call anyway. But yeah, I'd be happy to take his call. I would even take a call from Sarah Sanders or Donald Trump. Right here. Just bring me up and let's chat. All right?
All right. I'm going to wrap it up, but don't get off the line yet. I'm going to tell you a Bill Clinton, Jim Pledger story that I could not tell publicly when we get done, okay?
Well, that's unfair to the viewing public, but that's all right. I want to hear it. So, okay. I'm not going to sign off abruptly as usual. I'm going to stick with you. All right.
John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.